When people speak about dreams, they often speak with a sense of mystery. Dreams slip in quietly at night, sometimes vivid and unforgettable, other times hidden and unreachable the moment we open our eyes. Many people live with a quiet frustration that they cannot hold on to what they saw while asleep. They wake up with a blank space, knowing something passed through their mind but unable to recall it. The memory fades before they can capture it, as though someone erased the writing from a board. Over time, this can make a person wonder why their dreams never stay with them. They may ask themselves if they are being blocked, if something is interfering, or if their mind is too tired to remember. In spiritual thought, dreams are not small fragments of imagination. They are windows, messages, and reflections. They often carry warnings, guidance, and insight. To forget them is not just to lose a passing thought. It can be to lose a key that was placed in your hand during the night. Some people go for long stretches of time without recalling anything from their sleep. Others remember only shadows of what they saw, pieces that do not connect, flashes that do not stay long enough to be useful. And yet there is always a quiet awareness that something important passed through their spirit while they rested. When we think about this, we must also think about how the human mind works while asleep. The body may be resting, but the spirit is awake and active. It moves, it receives, it interacts. That is why dreams are not only natural images, but also spiritual transactions. Some people experience the presence of peace in dreams. Others experience attack, confusion, or manipulation. In all these, the dream is not simply a picture. It is an encounter. It is something that touches the deeper part of a person. To forget it quickly is to lose awareness of what really happened. This is where we turn to the idea of using something as simple as salt in a prophetic act. Salt is one of the oldest and most natural elements in the world. People use it daily for food, for preservation, and for cleansing. But in spiritual symbolism, salt also carries a deeper meaning. It is linked to purity, to covenant, and to preservation of what must not be lost. It has been seen as a way of setting apart what is holy from what is ordinary. When someone places a pinch of salt on their forehead before sleep, they are not only applying a physical grain, they are performing a silent act of intention. They are marking themselves with a sign that speaks of cleansing and remembrance. The forehead is a significant place on the body. It is the front of the mind. It is where thoughts and visions are carried. In many cultures, to touch the forehead is to acknowledge the seat of memory and awareness. When salt is placed there, wrapped and covered, it becomes a prophetic sign over the area of thought. It is like drawing a quiet boundary and saying, "My mind is guarded, my visions will be preserved, my dreams will not scatter." This is not about superstition. It is about choosing a physical symbol to match a spiritual expectation. Sleep is one of the most vulnerable states of human life. When the eyes are closed, when the body is at rest, the mind is open in ways it is not during the day. That is why many spiritual influences target people at night. If the dream life can be interrupted, then messages from God can be blurred. If the memory of the dream can be stolen, then warnings can be hidden. Forgetting dreams is often more than a natural weakness of the mind. It can also be a sign of interference. Some people wake up in the morning and feel drained, unable to recall anything, as though their inner life was tampered with during the night. The prophetic act of salt on the forehead addresses this at its root. Salt represents preservation. Just as it keeps food from spoiling, it is seen as a way of keeping memory from decaying. When someone applies it to the place of thought, they are setting an expectation that what was given in the night will not fade away. It will be preserved until morning, waiting to be recalled. It is a way of resisting the unseen hands that wipe away memory. It is a gentle act of restoration, saying that nothing valuable will be lost in the darkness. There is also the element of covering. To place salt on the forehead and then cover it is to shield it. Covering creates a seal. It prevents scattering. Spiritually, this is a way of saying that the mind will not be left open to every influence. It will be covered, it will be guarded, it will be safe. During sleep, when the natural guard of alertness is lowered, this covering is like a quiet watchman. It signals that the head is not exposed, that the gates of the mind are not left unattended. It is a small act, but carries a strong meaning. Dream restoration is not only about remembering what was seen. It is about recovering what was stolen. There are people who once had clear, sharp dreams, but slowly lost that ability. They may now go months without any recall, though they know dreams are still happening. This fading is often a spiritual theft. Just as memories can be stolen from the conscious mind, dreams can be stolen from the subconscious. Salt on the forehead is a way of declaring restoration. It is a prophetic reminder that what was once taken can be returned. It speaks of reestablishing the flow of memory that has been interrupted. When practiced with faith, the act of salt on the forehead is not about the grain itself, but about what it represents. It represents a boundary drawn in the spirit. It represents purity, standing guard over the thoughts. It represents memory, being preserved instead of erased. And most importantly, it represents an expectation that dreams will not be lost to the shadows. They will be remembered, restored, and kept clear in the morning. When a person desires restoration in the area of dreams, it is important to understand that action must meet intention. Salt, a substance so common and yet so rich in meaning, becomes more than a grain when used with focus and faith. It becomes a prophetic instrument. To use salt in this way, the act must be simple yet deliberate. One does not need large quantities. A pinch is enough, for it is not the weight of the salt that carries meaning, but the representation it holds. Before sleep, when the body is preparing to rest, one can take a small amount of salt and wrap it carefully so that it is not scattered. This wrapping is significant because it prevents loss. Just as the salt is held together physically, it signifies that the thoughts and dreams of the night will be held together and not scattered into forgetfulness. Once it is wrapped, the salt is placed directly on the top of the head. The head is not only the seat of thought, but also the highest point of the body. To place salt there is to crown the mind with preservation. It speaks silently to the spirit that the whole thought life is being sealed for the night. Unlike the forehead, which symbolizes vision, the very top of the head symbolizes covering. It is the place where blessings are often pronounced, where oil was poured in the scriptures as a mark of consecration. To put salt there is to imitate that ancient act of setting apart, of declaring that the head will be a guarded place through the hours of sleep. This is always done before sleep. Timing is important. When a person is about to lie down, the mind begins to release itself from the burdens of the day. At that moment, the gates of thought and memory are loosening. That is why the placement of salt at that hour is powerful. It is a seal at the moment of transition. It says that the night will not be stolen, that the sleep will not be manipulated, that the dreams will not vanish. It is like locking a door just before leaving a room. You do not wait until morning to secure what is inside. You lock it when you step away. In the same way, when one places salt on the head before sleep, they are securing their inner life before it drifts into the quiet passages of the night. This practice is not something to do occasionally. Restoration is not built by chance. It is built by constancy. Every night, when the desire is to recover the gift of dreams and to remember what has been seen, this act should be repeated. Each night carries its own battles and its own messages. To treat one night as safe and another as dangerous is to leave a door half open. But to place salt on the head every night before sleep is to form a steady wall of remembrance. It is to declare that each night matters, each dream has value, and each vision deserves to be preserved. Salt itself carries deep spiritual significance in this act. Salt is a preserver. It keeps what is alive from rotting. It holds back decay. When placed on the head, it speaks of the memory of the dream being kept from decaying by morning. Many people wake up and find their dream faded, as though it spoiled overnight. Salt speaks against this. It says that the dream will remain intact until it is recalled. Salt is also a purifier. It cleanses. Spiritually, when placed on the head, it represents the cleansing of the thought life, washing away the residue of confusion or manipulation that could taint the dream. This purification makes the dream clearer and less distorted, allowing the memory to come back without being clouded. Salt is also a covenantal substance. In the scriptures, salt was linked to the idea of covenant that could not be broken. When someone places it on their head before sleep, they are symbolically entering into covenant with God that their night will not be stolen. They are silently declaring that the messages given in the night will stay with them. This act ties their spirit to a promise that what is shown in sleep will not be forgotten, but it will rise with them in the morning. Placing salt on the head also speaks of covering. Just as a covering protects what is beneath it, so this act places a shield over the mind. The night can be a time when thoughts are left open, when the mind is vulnerable to outside influence. Covering the head with salt says that these gates are not left unguarded. The covering is a seal that claims the ground of the mind, refusing entry to interference that would steal or confuse the dream. It is an invisible guard that rests quietly over the sleeper, keeping the night sacred. When thinking about restoration, it is important to see how dreams are often stolen. Sometimes they are erased immediately, leaving no memory upon waking. Other times they are fragmented, leaving only partial recall that makes little sense. At other times they are overshadowed with heaviness, where a person wakes up with a fog and cannot trace back what they saw. These are forms of theft. The salt on the head answers each of them. It preserves memory. It binds the fragments and it clears the fog. It silently commands that what was given in the night will be returned whole in the morning. The nightly act of salt placement also teaches discipline. It reminds the sleeper that spiritual restoration is not passive. It requires action, even in simple forms. The wrapping of the salt, the placing of it on the head, the covering before sleep. These are small acts, but they show intention. They show readiness. They show that one is not indifferent to the messages of the night, but values them enough to guard them. Discipline builds expectation, and expectation opens the way for restoration. The act of doing this every night also builds spiritual memory. Each time the salt is placed, it becomes a reminder to the spirit that tonight is not to be wasted. It conditions the inner man to hold on to what is received. Over time, this repeated act trains the mind to wake with remembrance. Just as daily habits in waking life shape the body and thoughts, nightly habits shape the dream life. Salt on the head is a habit that shapes the night, guiding it toward clarity. There is also the meaning of humility in using salt. Salt is simple. It is not rare, not expensive, not glamorous. Yet in its simplicity, it carries power. To use something so common for such a significant purpose reminds us that restoration does not always require complex rituals. Sometimes it is the most basic elements used with faith and intention that open the deepest doors. Placing salt on the head each night is a way of embracing simplicity while trusting God for depth. Another dimension of salt on the head is the breaking of cycles. Forgetting dreams can become a cycle, repeating night after night, leaving a person frustrated. Cycles are often broken not only by prayer, but also by symbolic acts that disrupt the pattern. Placing salt on the head before sleep disrupts the cycle of forgetfulness. It says that the night will not follow the old path of loss, but will open a new path of remembrance. The cycle is interrupted by the act of preservation. Dream restoration is not only about remembering dreams, but also about valuing them. To place salt on the head before sleep is to say, my dreams are valuable. It is to treat them not as random images, but as treasures worth guarding. This value attracts restoration. When a person values what is given, more is entrusted to them. Salt on the head shows that the night is not neglected, that the visions are not dismissed, but that they are honored, and in honoring them, they are preserved. The top of the head is also the place of alignment. To place salt there is to align the whole being under preservation. It is not just the eyes that see in dreams, not just the ears that hear, not just the heart that feels. It is the whole person who dreams. Placing salt at the highest point of the body is like aligning the entire being under a covering. It is to say that from head to toe, the dream life is guarded. It is to crown the body with protection so that the night becomes a safe space for divine messages. Each night when the salt is placed, it is as though the sleeper is drawing a line against erasure. It is saying that the dream given tonight will be remembered tomorrow. It is a nightly declaration that nothing will be stolen in the darkness. Even if the dream is heavy, even if it carries warning, it will be remembered so that it can be addressed. The act ensures that the gift of night is not wasted, but is carried into the day with clarity. This act, repeated steadily, becomes a rhythm of restoration. Night after night, the salt on the head preserves the dreams. Night after night, the covering guards the mind. Night after night, the sleeper rises with greater memory. It is in the repetition that the restoration becomes solid. It is in the habit that the gift becomes stable. When the mind begins to quiet at the end of the day, it enters a threshold that is neither wakefulness nor full sleep. It is at that threshold where thoughts soften and awareness loosens its grip. Many people drift through that moment without thought, allowing sleep to take them without preparation. But when one remembers to place salt on the head, it turns that threshold into a sacred act. It makes the closing of the eyes an intentional transition. The body may be lying down, but the spirit is saying something clear. Tonight will not be wasted. Tonight will not be left unguarded. Tonight will not pass into nothingness. Closing the eyes without this act is like leaving a door open. The night may still come, and dreams may still form, but they are left vulnerable. They may be stolen, erased, or forgotten. But with salt resting on the crown of the head, the act of entering sleep becomes a deliberate crossing into guarded territory. The sleeper does not enter the night empty, but marked, covered, preserved. This changes the way the night unfolds. It signals that what happens in sleep matters, that it is not random, that it is worth protecting. This reflection draws our attention to how easy it is for people to underestimate the night. They value the day with its work and tasks, but they treat the night as nothing more than rest for the body. Yet in truth, the night is when the deeper part of life is in motion. The body may lie down, but the spirit moves. The outer man may rest, but the inner man encounters. The dreams of the night are the record of these encounters. To lose them is to lose part of the story. That is why restoration is so important. Salt on the head each night is not only about recall, it is about respect. It respects the night as a sacred space and refuses to dismiss it as emptiness. The more this act is repeated, the more it builds a posture of attentiveness. Night is no longer a blank stretch of hours, but a place where treasures are stored. And salt, resting at the highest point of the body, becomes the watchman of those treasures. It stands silently, saying that what was given will remain, that what was shown will not be erased, that what was spoken in dream will not vanish. This simple act transforms the night from a place of loss into a place of restoration. Dream restoration, it's also tied to memory itself. Forgetfulness in dreams often mirrors forgetfulness in waking life. When the memory of dreams is healed, it can flow into clearer memory of thoughts, words, and moments. The act of preserving dreams with salt teaches the mind to hold what it is given. It is not only the dream that benefits, it is the habit of remembrance itself. This builds a more attentive life. The sleeper who values their night becomes a person who values their day more deeply. They rise with sharper awareness, carrying into the daylight what was given in the dark. Placing salt on the head also holds meaning in terms of order. The mind is easily scattered. Thoughts drift, dreams scatter. Salt, gathered and wrapped before being placed, signifies that scattering will not be allowed. It says that the mind will not wander into fragments but will hold together. It calls order into the night, saying that what is given will not break apart into confusion, but will come as a clear whole. This is an act of alignment where the night is invited into peace instead of chaos. When the act is repeated night after night, it begins to establish a rhythm. The rhythm itself becomes a form of power. Just as a seed watered daily grows into strength, so this act, repeated steadily, builds a covering that grows deeper each night. It does not depend on how one feels, or whether the day was good or heavy. It is the act itself, repeated faithfully, that strengthens the guard. Over time, the nights themselves become marked with expectation. The spirit grows trained to remember. The memory grows practiced at preservation. The restoration becomes normal. There's something quiet yet profound about placing salt at the top of the head every night. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It does not require many words. It is simple. Yet in its simplicity, it reshapes the inner life. It teaches patience. It teaches value. It teaches the sleeper that the unseen parts of life are just as real as the seen. It places weight on what happens in dreams, refusing to let them pass away unnoticed. That quiet discipline creates depth, turning ordinary nights into sacred encounters. Another layer to reflect on is the covering aspect. The head is the gate of thought. It is where dreams pass through into memory. If that gate is unguarded, what enters may scatter before morning. But when the salt rests on the crown, the gate is sealed. Covering is more than protection. It is belonging. To cover the head with salt is to claim ownership over the dream life. It says that the dreams belong to the sleeper, not to thieves, not to confusion, not to manipulation. The dreams belong to the one who received them. Covering makes that claim. Each time this act is performed before sleep, it also builds anticipation. Anticipation is the soil where restoration grows. To lie down expecting remembrance is to train the spirit to hold on. Many people enter sleep with no thought of what they may see, so they rise with no thought of what they lost. But the one who places salt on the head carries expectation. That expectation is like a net, catching what would otherwise slip away. Night by night, the expectation grows stronger until remembrance becomes natural. It is worth noting that restoration often requires time. A person may not recall every detail on the first night they try this, but as they continue, their memory strengthens. Salt on the head is not an instant charm. It is a steady sign. It works with repetition. It is the faithfulness of the act, not just the act itself, that brings restoration. The more it is repeated, the more it builds. Over weeks, over months, it shapes the dream life back into clarity. The restoration is not rushed but nurtured until what was lost returns in fullness. To reflect on this act deeply is to realize how often people overlook the spiritual meanings of simple things. Salt is ordinary. The top of the head is ordinary. Sleep is ordinary. Yet when joined with intention, they open into extraordinary significance. That is the nature of prophetic acts. They take what is plain and reveal what is hidden. Placing salt on the head every night is a prophetic act of remembrance, preservation, and covering. It speaks silently, but it speaks powerfully. It restores what was broken and returns what was stolen. As this practice continues, it becomes more than a habit. It becomes a testimony. Each morning, when dreams return to memory, it testifies that the night was not wasted. Each morning of recall strengthens the faith that restoration is possible. And each morning, the act proves itself again. The simple pinch of salt on the head becomes a sign that no dream is too fragile to be preserved, no memory too weak to be restored. This reflection leads us to recognize that the night itself is a gift. It is not an empty stretch of darkness, but a canvas where God writes messages, warnings, encouragements, and visions. To lose them is to lose part of life. To restore them is to recover part of life. Salt on the head is a way of honoring that gift. It is a way of saying that the night is sacred, that dreams are not waste, and that nothing given will be allowed to vanish. It is a way of keeping the treasures of the night safe until morning light. And so night after night, the act is repeated. The salt is wrapped. The salt is placed. The head is covered. Sleep comes, dreams rise, and memory holds. Restoration takes root, not with noise, but with quiet, steady faith. This is the rhythm of dream restoration. This is the meaning of salt on the head. Thank you for reflecting with me on this journey of dream restoration. If this message has spoken to you, take a moment to share it with someone who needs it. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel so you can walk with us in more moments of quiet reflection and insight. Until next time, may your nights be guarded and may your dreams be preserved.